Well, welcome back to the ITAM Kitchen. 10 o'clock Eastern every day. We've been doing this actually now for, today's a Wednesday, right? Oh my gosh. 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks. It's awesome. Phenomenal. It's what it's all about. Let's have fun, make it happen. For those who don't know me, I'm Bill Talbot. Mr. Bill, as they know me here in the ITAM world, there's a whole Mr. Bill character out there and everything. I have not brought him on screen. I need to find him. I've not used him in a while because it's all about Mr. Bill. And actually, there's a little story with that is sometimes be careful what you bring up within a session because it may just come back and haunt you. So the whole idea behind Mr. Bill, and for Mr. Bill, people called me Mr. Bill for years, right? And I hated, despised it, right? At the age of 40, all of a sudden you learn to accept things better is the best way to put it, right? And I was going down to this conference, I was speaking. One of these, and it's a well-known name on the conference. I'm not going to promote it because there's some contention there today because they think I'm competition with them. It's like, oh my gosh, go figure. But anyways, I was at this conference and I figured, let's go have fun. So I brought Mr. Bill with me, a brand new character. I found him. If anybody knows Fry's Electronics, we had him in Atlanta. I found him, picked him up, and brought him down with me. I didn't know what I was going to do with the guy. A little clay thing about this big. Well, I started taking pictures because this is the first time this conference had social media. And little did I know what the result's going to be, and little do we all know what social media is going to do to us sometimes. But this is social media for the conference. So it's like, okay, fine. I'll go take a little picture of Mr. Bill in the beach chair or a table or doing something, having a drink. We had beverages tonight. We had a drink, right? Stuff like that. And we're in St. Pete Beach. So a very nice beach down in Florida. If you've never been there, highly recommend it. Go have a blast. It's blast. So we're down there at a hotel just doing all said and done. What I didn't realize was the following Mr. Bill had at this conference.
Oh my!
They had a competition of who can do the most pictures, the most pronounced, etc. You know who won? Mr. Bill, the character. Yeah, he won the entire competition. I mean, of all things, it's like he was on the beach chair, he was in the sand, he was having beverages. I'm not talking about little beverages either. I'm talking about he was having some whiskey, some Jack Daniel's single barrel, stuff like that. We were having the good stuff, right? And he was at the table having lunch, and the whole idea was people were trying to find him. So sometimes you never know what kind of following you're going to have. And I don't want to say that. I don't say it haphazardly. I say that fun-lovingly because that's where the fun is you have to take those unexpected moments, make the most of them, and move forward with it. And that's where we're actually taking, that's what exactly for Rob Collins and I on this session in particular, which we've been doing this a lot in ITAM Kitchen, is we're going to look at topics. Okay, what do we want to talk about, right? And today is actually a real scenario. Actually, they're all real scenarios. But this one was how we submit resumes, how we look at that, right? Mm-hmm. We're having an overall discussion about it because I had some technical issues on my side, but we're going to take notes as we go, as you see me do before, is make that happen. But as we get started, before we get started, I want Rob to introduce himself in a moment too, wherever you're coming in from the chat, say who you are and where you're from and what the weather is today. What's that one thing, what the weather is today? And actually, I'm going to put a third one. What's the biggest challenge you have in defining your role that you really love to have today? Yeah. I'm going to put that out there, right? When I do this, we do pay attention to this. We do look at the comments. I look at them all, and we look through it, and we'll go live. And if we can't get to it, we'll get to it back offline. But I want to say that to be more interactive. We've done a lot of great interactions so far. People have been actually finding jobs because of the ITAM Kitchen. And that's something to be said. I've seen several folks actually gain the momentum because of their involvement. That's awesome. That's what it's all about. That was unexpected result, but I love that because that means the passion's there. You're driving and you're helping drive your own momentum. But real quick, before we dig into it, Rob, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Rob Collins. I got 30 plus years in experience within IT asset management in varying different roles throughout my career. And so recently, I'm one of the many people that is finding themselves in this new shift, sort of like looking for work. And so as I'm doing this, like I do with everything, I try to make a study of it. So I'll take notes, I'll find out what trends are happening, I try and talk to people. And so this, what you're going to see and what we're going to talk about today is kind of the output of some of that. And what I encountered was the Applicant Tracking System. So many of you should probably be familiar with that term, the ATS as it is. And we'll get into that in just a few minutes. And so, we're coming together today to kind of talk about that, because I know that this is not only one of the challenges, but that quite a few folks that have tried to submit resumes, for instance, for examination, often find yourselves coming back to this ATS format, and service providers that are going to try and help you tidy up your resume and make it some current format. We'll get into that here just shortly. So what it is this is the Applicant Tracking System format for resumes. And in the folks that I've talked to, especially through here at the ITAM Kitchen, everybody seems to have sort of touched on this subject or been affected by it in some way or another. And so I decided to go ahead and pull together some information on what it is, kind of get a brief history of it, and to kind of talk about what the formatting is, so that you, one, are not necessarily lured into some service which promises you something that you probably don't need. And two, so that your resumes, when they get out there, can be sufficiently scanned by the intake processes when you go to try to find jobs and go to apply. So just hopefully this will be helpful to some, and by all means, like and share and spread this word out, especially for all those out there that are also trying to find work and need to make their process for that more efficient.
Oh, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. That's great. And some of this discussion that we're actually, Rob and I, how this came to be is the dialogue we personally are impacted. And some of the off air chatter we have after the session is like, we just got denied. I mean, I saw it literally just in the last week. I submitted for something. Within 6 hours, it said you declined. It's like, okay, try to resubmit. There's no resubmittal.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing on that. It's like, Rob, what's going on? He says, well, ATS, there it goes again. It's like, okay, it's going on there. Let's make it happen, as an example. Yeah. So wherever you want to kick off, you tell me, Rob.
Okay. Let's just get into it, I say, and start prompting a discussion. We also like for these sessions to be interactive. So definitely get into the chat. Tell us where you are. And also explain, that's your experience too, around the pain points, especially with trying to navigate the job market and find positions and be hired. So, and again, to echo what Bill said a little while ago, it actually turns out that a few folks that have been attending the forum have recently posted on LinkedIn that they found employment, they've actually been hired. That's great. I'd love sometime to go to survey the folks that have recently been hired and find out from them what were the determining factors that led to the successful job. So that's going to require some homework and some interviews, etc. We'll get to that.
And I'll understand if it's a short-term or long-term outcome.
Yeah. Did you contract or did you get permanent placement? Because that's a big deal too. All right, so let's talk about the applicant tracking systems themselves. You should be familiar with them. You go online, you find a job, and you click through to apply. Typically at the LinkedIn interface, it's going to be save and apply. You save them all. You apply for the ones that you believe will be most successful or that meet the job criteria that you're trying to find. So the applicant tracking system basically is a filtering mechanism, is what it is. As approached from the position of the hiring person or agency, right? And typically you're going to encounter these things like Workday, for instance, has one of those systems that's built into it. It's one of the parts of the tool, right? And nearly all large companies right now, because of their relationship with the product, especially Workday, and I should search up what the other systems are out there, they utilize this. And what it does is the ATS takes your resume in, right? It reads through all of the text and it processes out those applicable things like what your work history is, right? If you have an objective, what your education has been, what certifications, what skills you bring, all of the things that you see in those major pieces of a resume, right? So just think on that. Think about the structure, because really this is where we're going with this, okay? So your typical application, would be accompanied by resume, and that resume, normally is formatted a couple of different ways, right? And believe it or not, in the case of this, simpler really is better. Even if it just looks very hard to follow on paper, there we'll get to some of the formats that seem to be more easily and successfully read by the employer, and things like Workday. Right. And then ATS takes this, right, and it converts this into a simple digital profile for each person. And here's the thing, and I'm sure this is one of your pain points, and I can't wait to see your pain points. Good candidates are often rejected by improper formatting of the resume. Now, the fault for this could be on the job seeker. Don't take it to heart. It's really not necessarily your fault. And then also the candidates, for instance, they may be seeking particular keywords within your resume in order for you to get through your filtering. Like, for instance, one of the easy ones, do you have a 4-year degree, or do you have industry experience, year for year exchange, or however that goes, right? Often, for instance, like myself, I have a degree. It's only an associate's, right? But it was done after like 20 years of my industry experience, right? And so one would think, just by that alone, I should pass the educational requirement, right? But that isn't necessarily the case. If it's only tracking for just 4-year degree individuals and everybody else is out, you're out, regardless of 30 plus years of experience. That's just the way those systems work. And part of this will address how you navigate systems like that we know are imperfect, and that will reject. That was a really important point to make, especially for all of you out there putting in the time and the work and getting frustrated. So I really wanted to bring this to you to kind of not necessarily put closure to it, but kind of ease those concerns so that you and your mind can move to more practical application of what you're trying to do. So let's get on down to it.
I'm just taking notes here. I'm saying ATS ignores the human touch required for a role.
Yeah, that's a great way to highlight that point. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what the history of those are, right? So early digital systems in the 90s, right, typically took the paper, scanned it in, and then they used optical character recognition, OCR, in order to break down what is being said in the resume, right? And so the ATS format was originally kind of a necessary survival tactic, if you will, for industries that are trying to hire for positions. It's an easy way. It makes the job of screening a little bit easier. So you end up with smaller pools.
Yeah, it happened with the old faxing the resumes in. It happened with faxing the resumes in, didn't it?
Yeah, that was part of it. And I know that back in the 90s, I was working with OCR just to pull information in from like paper reports rather than send that off to somebody to have it digitally transcribed, which could be very costly. But thanks to the update in scanning systems and character recognition, that gradually got much better with time. And of course, and we will talk about it because modern systems, right, are leveraging AI in order to break out the content from those submissions, right? So, and just understand, so much as AI goes, my personal experience has been about an 85% success rate before you encounter hallucination. And then you have to retrain your particular prompt in order to kind of move around those inaccuracies and increase the quality of the output. So just figure that, right? And think about how that's applied to any document, much less your resume, right? Which is really important to you because that's the key for you continuing your career. So if you look at that and you think about that success rate or the failure rate, the 15%, then you really start to get bugged. And I'm sure most of you are about, oh my God, I'm going to send this information over. Can I trust it's going to be properly filtered? That a person is going to look at this? And that's part of what we're addressing here. Right? And then today, just understand that ATS is a standard tool used across many different industries by many key players and big companies. Right? So at some point, you're going to encounter it. Right? So let's move to the next one. There we go. So the thing that's more successful, the thing that is better, believe it or not, is a boring looking resume. A single column layout so that the machine can process this, the AI can process these lines, right? Don't throw tables into it, right? And let's see, standard section headings are crucial for the algorithms to process your resume and move through each line of the content. Right? And even, of course, they're not perfect. So understand this, but let me tell you a test you can do in just a minute, right? Submit the safest file type, which is typically a Word docx file. I, of course, have concerns around that because I don't want what I have to be manipulatable. I don't want it modified. I don't want it edited. I want you to get the thing that I'm presenting in its purest form. So, but there are other file types which can be used. PDFs is a favorite because that's one of those that locks down the file if you do the protection properly. And then believe it or not, a text format, a very simple text format, is another one which actually is more successful and machine readable and recognizable. So keep your mind on that, right? Maybe do 2 resumes. If you have to appeal to your own sense of the design, make it pretty, embellish, whatever, that's great. That's your paper resume that you can copy and hand off or email to people direct. If you instead are going to use the systems, which seem to be prolific, then have an alternate, right? Or your machine readable resume. All right. And in that case, it's really going to look terrible because it's going to be lots of lines of text, but they're going to be very clear so that the machine can understand and pull out the date. If it's a job experience, it knows this is the date start, this is the date end, this is the role description or the job duties. This is the name of the company. This is the name of the supervisor, telephone number to contact in case they want to vet your experience that you've listed. So think in those terms. If you get down to an education section, it's the same thing. My formal education will have the following institutions, the dates of attendance, the average, if you want to share that, of your GPA, and then any other relevant information with applicable, very easy to understand headings and what do you say, column headers. Right? Now, I said column headers, but remember, tables are not a format that's good to submit to an ATS. So let's
avoid graphics.
Yes,
yeah, let's avoid graphics in there. Yeah, that definitely let out. Yeah.
That is absolutely true. Avoid graphics and logos and things like that. Again, make one for yourself. If you know it's going in front of a human being, it'll scan it because the brain works more efficiently and way faster than any of the computers that we have out there, depending on what you're using it for. And this way, that stuff's readable and it's pertinent and it goes through their system. It passes the checks, right? Let's see.
So let's talk through this a little bit. Let's talk through some use case here, a little bit on the PDF and Word, right?
Yeah.
I would say PDF for the most part is accepted by everybody. Everyone can read PDFs. If you have it security locked with a password, bad idea, right? So have it so it's not protected like that, just so it's a standard PDF. And that's what you're going to post on LinkedIn and things like that. LinkedIn, Dice, different career sites, et cetera. Monster.com still out there as an example, et cetera. Here in the U.S. I'm sure there's others in Europe, but we'll just in general, right? So you have that PDF you put out there, and that's also what you'd initially forward out to, say, the recruiters when they're asking you some of that information.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Now, they may ask you for a Microsoft Word version. Honestly, they're being lazy. You know why? Because Microsoft Word can actually read a PDF and transfer it.
Yep, sure can.
So it can. So if they're saying, well, do you have a Word version? It's like, you don't have to give them one. Honestly, it just means that there's something wrong on their own side. It's like, I would ask the question, why do you need one? Today's technology will consume the PDF, no problem. Again, I'm giving rebuttals here because you need to be prepared for that versus just saying, check to make that happen. Because sometimes here's Rob, you brought it up, so that's one of the reasons why I want to drive into this, one of the points, digging out a little bit further. If you put your WordX, Microsoft Word docx out there, and that's what you're going to put on LinkedIn, you put it on the different profiles, etc. The recruiters are going to see that. You'll never get contacted. You'll never get contacted. They're going to modify it, put it in their library. Great, I have another resource. That's it. I guess I'm looking for you on this one, right? And because they're a lot of these folks are just about, they don't have jobs, and that's what's happening today. They are just looking for candidates just in case they get a role that comes to them from the different suppliers of theirs, right? They're different customers. So you get that, when you give that docx out there in a docx format, you just freely give it, they're just going to modify it. That's all it is. They're going to modify it. It might be for their buddy. It might be something like that. I hate to say it like that, but that's exactly what's happening, especially in today's world. It's not in the U.S. We're a little bit more compliant. Since we've gone global, we'll just say there's some dishonesty out there is the best way to put it on that part. Again, I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm just trying to be factual on that side. So you're prepared for some of that discussion. So that's the reason why I would also say PDF in the most part, that's 99% of what I provide. If it's an MS Word, I need to have a very serious and in-depth conversation with the person I'm talking to before I'll give it to them. And that recruiter needs to know what they're talking about. Otherwise, if it's just a recruiter just submitting for your job and they don't know anything about the role, hands off, you're getting a PDF and you'll figure it out. You need to let them work for it. Because so that's the additional part I put into this whole ATS format. If you're going to go down that path and from a recruiter submitting it, make them work for it on their side. I'm not saying being a pain in the butt. I'm just saying actual and understand who you're working with. So I just wanted that little tidbit of information, kind of off topic a little bit for ATS, but the ATS systems can typically also read PDFs. I had one actually in the last week that didn't. Actually, it was just last night. They did, and I was like, wow, okay, we have a very outdated system. And I'm not talking about outdated within the last year. I'm talking outdated. They've been able to read PDFs for close to 10 years already, right? So just realize the type of technology and who you're working with and that front. Maybe it's the job of your dreams. I'm not saying not to do it. Maybe go through homework, right, and submit it individually, because that's actually what I was doing last night. I submitted all my experience individually because this system could not transcribe what I gave it. Most today can. So I just want a little tidbit in there because these are real experiences we're hitting today, today's day and age, right? So wherever you want to take it, Rob, I just want to add that little nugget right there when it came to that piece.
Let's expand on 2 points, right? The first one, and I think the simplest one, well, mostly challenging, right, is you see a job opening, you go to apply for it, you submit your resume, etc. Do you know whether it's legitimate or not?
Great point.
Is it in the way that you handle that? There's a certain degree of due diligence on your part and trust in who's asking for it. So keep that, in your resume information, for instance. Like I've heard comments about, I'm not putting my address on the resume. I'm not putting certain bits of communication information on the resume. That's great. Those are good safeguards. Validate before you respond. And if it looks fishy, it probably is. If it hits you in the gut the wrong way, probably is. That's your intuition working for you to protect you. All right, so it's hard to find jobs, but
and do trust that gut instinct on there. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's another one too. On that, if you want to know whether or not your resume works within an ATS system, apply for jobs, right? When you do, there's a step that enables you to load a resume into their system. You're going to import to them, or they'll import from you, right? And then go to the next screen, when it starts to try to fill out all those fields for you, look at what it looks like. Does it offset things? Is there some inconsistency in the timing, for instance, for your experiences? Anything at all that looks off, then that's a way that you can say that my resume in this format, in current state, is not passing all of the necessary checks or providing the information to their algorithm to fill all those fields. If that's the case, back up, get another format, submit it, see if you get better, better accuracy and more completeness, right? And correctness to the information that moves from your resume over to your application with that company. So that's going to be the test. It's a pain in the ass, but it's going to serve you well, and you'll find the best format fit for those job application systems. So now,
Absolutely. A couple of things I want to say real quick. I went a little bit off screen, but I'm still right here. Don made a great comment that fonts are also important. Absolutely. So too large, too small, you want to make sure the fonts are very consistent. on that side. It's kind of hit and miss. If you use a text format, it's a little bit easier. But yeah, if you try to do the fancy cursive fonts or something like that, it's going to have a hard time transcribing, as an example. Have that one. And you also have, there's another one. I honestly never thought someone might use my resume in such a way. Welcome to the family.
Yeah.
We didn't either. This actually happened within the last 10 years. It's happened a lot like this because people they're just gathering information. That's all they're doing, right? On that part. So yeah, they're just getting that information in there, and it's gotten to be really a bad thing. So again, provide that awareness right here. You're here live. I'm welcome, and I'm glad you're now educated in this area.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything else, Rob?
So no, we can move on to kind of the next topic for this presentation. Anyway, it's going to be optimization tips, and it sort of hits on the formatting we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? So when you're applying for a job, you should already be familiar with the idea or the practice of fine-tuning your resume for a job submission, where it matches the description, or it matches the duties, or fits within the particular silo or task area for an employer. So you have those things, right? Use exact keywords from the relevant job description, because part of what it does is it scans your content and starts matching. It matches against what the employer, right, set up as the ideal. We had a session not too long ago where we discussed that. I would advise that you go back and you find the sessions around the job description, right? Because we get at least a couple of sessions just on that alone. That's important. Also, any acronyms that you use, spell them out. You know the rule at least one time when you first use it, and then you can use the acronym the rest of the way, and any abbreviations that are utilized. So if do that, then you're helping whatever mechanism going to OCR, AI pass that resume to very easily recognize things and match. So that's key. And if it's a percent matching, for instance, issue, that's going to help you in that. Use consistent date formats for calculation. Like me, you want to get down to the day, hour, minute of whenever a thing started and finished. A bit too much, but at the very least, month, year would be a format to utilize. I do day, month, year. I use year, month, day, but that's up to you. But try to use those, and then when you go to do that test, you'll see which formats the machine recognizes easily. And then all contact information should be kept within the resume body. This came up when I did my research because, like on mine, I put it up in the header just to make it convenient so that when I print it out or when I email it, it's easy. A human's going to look at that. They're going to pull the stuff out, and I'll have it available. They can work from it, right? When we're talking about machine readable, yeah, make sure that information is down in the body of the letter, if you will. That's important. That's going to be key. Did you have anything you want to talk about there, just in that area, in and around formatting?
I did. I want to say specifically on keywords, right? Yeah. Sometimes you don't know what those keywords are. I know I'm a very detailed individual. It's like, okay, I see a bunch of words out here. Which one are the key ones they're searching for? This is a great opportunity to leverage AI, right? Whether it's ChatGPT, whatever AI you're using. There's more than just ChatGPT, as well as the Google. I can't remember the Google version now. There's more than that. So if you, whatever version you're using, right? Yeah, Gemini, thank you. Put in the job description within that system to say, what are the keywords I need to include within my resume from this job description, right? And that's be able to help you. Again, as we talk about, I've seen a lot of people get scared because of AI, right? This is an opportunity to learn it, right? And I look at that because those keywords, because what you're going to do there, for job description, I'm going to give you another assistance from AI, right? When you get those keywords, identify 6, 12, whatever it is, right? What that is. Now put your resume in there and say, are these keywords within here? Help it provide you and guide you. That's your mentor, if you want to take it that way, right? I'm not saying have it rewrite resume. I'm not saying that at all. Maybe you want to assist it and say, okay, how would you tweak it and wordsmith it more? Absolutely another reason to use AI. But when you can use AI like this, we've talked about how do we leverage in our world. Here,
Yep.
we're using it to help submit because, say, I need these keywords in there for the ATS format. And it'll know exactly what you're talking about. I just use an example. That's a little piece I would add to that to say, okay, how do you leverage that from the optimization and put that in there as well? As far as those keywords, that's what came to mind for me, Rob.
Yeah, that's good. Something else kind of popped up in my head too, and that there are good services out there that you can choose to pay for if you want to build a resume from start to finish, right? And so it's like with the other thing too, with recruiters. If you trust them, if you get some experience with them, you vet them, then I wouldn't say don't use those services, because they can be very helpful and they can help lead you to a good end product fairly quickly, more efficiently than having to discover it on your own. The other thing too around the use of AI there with this, yes, absolutely you should use AI. However, be critical and be careful with your prompt engineering, right? And ensure that the content that you get back fits exactly what you wanted in the question where you did the prompt engineering. And in this way, you can also do things like that, like listing keywords, etc. So there's all that point, you know. The other things I was going to talk about were the mistakes often made in AI or in putting your resumes together. We did talk a little bit about that. Like, don't use tables. Tables can be very hard for those systems to read through and recognize and pull the data from. Complex visuals, icons, progress bars, workflow diagrams, that kind of stuff. Really, it's great if it's going directly in front of a human being to assess, but knowing it's going to go through some machine pass first and filter, that's something to definitely keep in mind. Creative titles and special names for things, because everybody wants to sound smart, right? Yeah, don't. Really, keep that simple. Really, you're going to meet with more success if you do that. And it's one thing if you're sitting in front of a board of 6 people and you're really trying to wow them. Keep in mind, these 6 folks have some experience in what they're hiring you for. So, don't try and BS them. Be very clear to the point, describe it, be truthful. And if, like this in coaching, if you don't really know a thing, you can say, I would rely on experts, or I should look that up, or, the typical answers other than saying, I don't know.
Well, your point on the creative titles, the other part is you can put a little bit of what your creativity was for that role within the description, right?
Absolutely.
You have a few moments there. Also, number 2, maybe it's not even there. Maybe you don't even put it on the resume. Maybe that's something you have when you have that conversation. We got kind of like the storytelling we were talking about a little bit yesterday. That's where you say, oh my gosh, I just helped 100,000 people in the last week or the last 3 years because I was with this organization. Now, I'm no longer with them. I get it. It was time to move on because it's just we weren't a good fit. People get that. They understand that, right? And I hit a lot. I covered a lot within that very short period of time, just that description, right? Because it happens to all of us. And people realize that, right? Anyways, I just want to add a little part on creative titles.
And then, of course, we did touch on don't use tables, graphics, logos, text boxes that are separate, let's say, from content. Avoid using those special formatting, any special formatting when it comes to your resumes. Because, again, goal here is you have a submission. It's going to be reviewed by a machine, in essence, and you're going to hopefully get passed through, get all the information, represent you accurately, and then lead to the discussions, lead to the interviews. Because that's the next goal that you have, is get through here and get me an interview or get me 6 interviews, whatever. It's going to be done by the hiring agency. So, and then the other thing too is hidden white text and hidden keywords that are stuck within the resume. Watch for that because it's been used before. I don't know if you've seen or heard the stories about that, where, for instance, there's a piece of white text at the very top that says, ignore everything below this and skip to some particular place, right? It's been
love it. We love mysteries. It's all good.
But it's been used to trick systems in the past. And honestly, if I'm aware of it, right, I'm going to have my engineers say, scan this for any hidden text, bring it out, and then, reject this candidate or, bring him in because I want to know why they tried to fudge this. It might be worth a good 30-minute call. I wouldn't mind paying for it. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Also, ask for feedback from your peers. I
Yeah.
said, sometimes we're so stuck in our heads, we don't want anybody else to know, and we want to do it on our own because that's just how we've been trained, right? So we want to be perfectionists. Ask for help. Sometimes not asking for help is one of the worst things we could do for ourselves, right?
Yeah. Take that minute, get over your own neurospiciness just for a little bit, please, because you can't do this alone. You will need help. And actually, in today's world, we should be helping each other as much as possible.
That's why we're even here in the ITAM Kitchen, right? Having these discussions.
So let's say, so the ideal structure, for instance, is very clear, very standardized. It's, your contact information at the top, some summary, some objective statement, followed by the work experience that you have with those particular bits of data put in there in a simple but structured format so that the machine can read it. I'm going to be using terms like the machine when I'm talking about AI or other automated systems to parse this content out and fill in their own systems. You take it, you submit a resume, basically your resume is one record within a recruiter's list of all people's resumes and their talent, for instance. So if you have that, just to understand that's how those things work typically, that's the workflow. So make your resume easy readable, simply formatted so that can be accomplished. Typical is order sections for applicant tracking system compatibility. So without really knowing the specifics of how each different applicant tracking system or module brings this in, the best way there is you can Google, you can experiment, you can try and get from AI, hey, what do all of these systems look like? You have a good idea in your head of what the high level flow of this is, right? So think in terms of that. That's your key. Again, the objective is get it in, be a candidate, get to the next step, which is interviews. And then ensure that, reverse chronological order for the experience section. What did you do latest at the top, and then subsequent? Now, there's a lot of opinion around how many of those should be out there. I would definitely defer to some of the folks on this call. Should it be your last 5 job experiences? Should it be your last 10 years? Or do you just want to throw a CV at them? I'm turning 56, and by God, there's I don't know, 46 years of experience there that I could detail in a CV, from the lawn mowing business all the way up. But really, I don't know. It's like more of a biography and a life story there. So, submit what seems reasonable. Ask folks that have succeeded in landing jobs what their submissions look like, right? And then just ensure that your template looks nice and clean and simple. You can move this stuff to Notepad, right? Or my favorite is like Notepad++, because, oh my God, I just love that app. But that's it, so that you can read it from the top to the bottom, even if it's like 9 pages long. In that structure, that's not intended to go in front of a human being. That's intended to be read by the machine and processed into their records. So just to understand that. Bill, do you think of anything else, or let's see what the commenters have to say?
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the comments, because some of the things I thought as well with that, you brought it up, right? Sometimes people say, okay, it needs to be 1 or 2 pages. To me, I say FUBAR. The reason why I say FUBAR on that is when you come from an experience standpoint, and keep in mind, we're 30 plus years of experience, right? And we're not trying to say we're going to list everything out, but just listing to say the last, say 10 years of experience in the descriptions, that could be 3 to 4 pages long, right? And people need to know that. And whenever I have recruiters, oh, you need a short, it's like, no, it's called it is as it is. They go, really? It's like, it is what it is. You can shorten if you want to, but for me, anytime asking for me, it's like I did not modify that resume. So you have to stand on your own 2 feet when I say that. But you're pertinent. Make sure you're pertinent roles. For example, in some of my, if you're looking at my own CV or what I have on LinkedIn, you're going to see I was part of a Kiwanis Club. I do a lot of volunteering with the Boy Scouts, things like that. You see those listed, and they put those in the job description as well. When it comes across, like, no, that's not. Some people love it. So don't get me wrong. Some people love seeing, okay, you're part of Scouts and help 400 Scouts become Eagle Scouts, et cetera, which I have done, because it shows your ability to serve and things like that. But make sure you have the pertinent roles there. And also, when you get over a certain duration, those jobs are one-liners. There is no just description, right? And that's the thing I want to add to that is one-liners, because you still have more to talk about outside just your experience.
Yeah.
And that's the important part, right? So that's the thing that immediately came to mind for me on that. What do we have on screen? Anything we need there, Rob?
Well, we're just really kind of talking about that ideal structure, for instance, formatting. And so we've covered all of that in our discussion so far. I would like to add one thing, though, to that. And this, if you've got nothing else going on, right, as a practical exercise, write a CV, right? If I were to design a resume builder, what I would do is I would insist that it starts with the listing of all possible experiences that you have encountered, right, in your life, education, special skills, everything. Make it the longest format possible, all the details. And then when it comes time to pull these things into a formal resume, that one should be able to go and click a box next to each piece or section to say, include this, 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 and this, or give me a smart insertion algorithm where I say, this is the job I'm looking for, right? And the skill set that's necessary. Now, run through that long list of all the experience and you select for me what you think should be in there to build a resume. So if anybody wants to talk about setting up a algorithm or an application to do that, by all means, please reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. We're all here. So
exactly. And some of the feedback we're talking about, because we're doing live on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. Yeah. That's why we're doing this whole purpose here. And if you haven't connected to the YouTube channel, please do connect on that. Let me pull some up here on that part. Where it is. Make sure you do follow us on the YouTube channel, because LinkedIn, we're kind of having some struggles over here, but we're trying to broadcast the best we can over here. But YouTube is going to be our core format we're leveraging. So make sure you connect on that. But where I was going also that is, this is also, we have an entire community. So ITAM Kitchen is actually part of the IT Management Co-op, right? And we have a whole program called the ITAM Buddy. And the whole idea is we have a community where we talk and have collaboration, et cetera. And that's a great place to actually even talk about the resumes. We get an entire session on that, roles and struggles, because we struggle with that. It's not just what we do here, but it's what we do with them day in, day out. It's an entire tool for that. So I want to put that little plug in for that, because that's also help you, whether you're looking for a job, having a job, because sometimes the best time to find a job is when you have one, or you're just thinking outside the box, you need some help because you just don't want to put this in an open forum. That's what we're talking about. And resumes are part of that. I know I myself, within the community members, I've helped at least a couple dozen folks inside the community, so they're actually able to find that job. And do I know it all? I don't. But by the collaboration and get our noodles working, the light bulb going on, they say, oh, I now know what to do. And they figure it out, right? Going that next step. So having that network of folks is extremely important. Anything else on the format so far? Because we're hitting this. We haven't talked about education. We haven't talked about skills. That's what comes to mind on here.
Yeah, so just to drive the conversation forward, those listings of educations and skills, we touched on them a little bit, but those are also very important to have. This would be another place that I would research for, given job position, what sorts of skills are being filtered for or being assessed or being looked for that will add to or increase your chance of success to get those interviews going. So that's definitely something that could be said. The format, though, keep it really simple on the machine side. If you're going to hand it off to a human being, make it presentable. I mean, you're all professionals at this. You've been in this game long enough. You know it's going to pass. And for those of you, for instance, that have hiring experience, I would definitely say there should be a community stood up to where these people come together and say, as a person that's hired or as a person that's reviewed candidates, here's what I've done, here's what I've looked for, and here's what stood out to the ones that won the position, the people that I wanted to go to hire. I think that would be a really great, useful, helpful sort of thing out there for the community.
Maybe we'll do that in the next couple of weeks. I like that. I hadn't thought about that, because you're right. Because those that have experience, we've been there, done it. Yeah. We've had the dozens, if not hundreds, of resumes we need to go through on that part for the different roles. And it's like, really? You submit this person? Why? right? Or you only get 5 resumes and they said, well, we actually have 50, but we're only down to 5, and said, okay, well, explain why, as an example. And so having that discussion from administrative as well as, I wouldn't say authoritative, that's not the right word, just from the process perspective, you can understand what's happening on the managerial side. That's probably the word I was looking for. The managerial side, so you can say, okay, what else is going through that manager's mind when he gets this, he or she, right? They get this and make that happen. Totally. But education skills came through. You can also put the references. The references come to mind. I always say references by request. I'm not one to just send out references, right?
That's a really good point. Really good point.
Yeah, references by request. Again, I'm just checking. Oh my gosh. Coming to the top of the hour. This is great. I'm loving it.
8 minutes left, so.
I know. Please, I have questions out there. Put them in there. Additional comments. This is great. Some great content here, right? And again, keep in mind, you want, like Rob was talking about, you may need 2 different resumes, right? One for the system, one for that you're submitting. I like to intermix it between the 2 because I hate with multiple different versions. That's just me. And I think the format actually works pretty well. But even with that, mine works pretty well, but the system I was working with, I'm so used to just being inquiring, and this happened like in the last 2 weeks. It did not know how to consume the information because it was outdated. And this was a really big firm, global organization, that they have not updated their own system. Therefore, they went manual, and there's no way to update it.
Yeah.
And I was asked to submit a resume to make it more crazy, right? They already have the resume internally. From a human eye perspective, it never went through the process.
See, and that's a great point too that you bring up, right? You're on the outside of the system. You're trying to get in. Now, one of those ideal jobs that you might get once you get in is sit down with HR and sit down with hiring managers and let's update our system, make it more modern, more applicable to today, make it current, make it relevant, so that you can hopefully change that. But you'll never be able to do that effectively unless you either get hired as a contractor to come in and do it, or you get hired into that organization, present that need, and they decide that's something that they should work on.
Right, exactly. It's important to just keep that in mind because you know what we know what that does to you. The whole scenario I've just talked about, it screws you in the head. Your mindset, it's like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
It's a system issue, and you have to realize it's taken me 50 plus years to figure this out. It was a gift for that to happen. It was a gift for that whole experience. You might say I'm absolutely nuts. That's a whole different scenario. I have references on that, but but from an overall blessing perspective, I'll go that way. Not to be religious. I am religious, but my point's not to push religion on anybody. But it's a blessing because it allowed you to think a little differently, to realize that things and systems are out there that don't just immediately just happen. We have to think outside the box, so it allows us to grow. And that's the important part here too, because when we talk submitting resumes, ATS format, whatever it is, it could be literally just, I have one right now that you have to submit it one by one, which is crazy. Is you have to think, you have to use a learning opportunity. And that's what we're talking about here, right? How are we learning and growing? So I'm kind of bringing us back to center as we come here at the top of the hour, is how are you learning from this whole experience? How are you thriving? Because it's like, I just need a job and I need money. I need to pay the bills, etc. I totally get it. I totally get it, right? But at the same time, if you learn to say, you know what, this may be painful. I can get it out the gate, outside the gate. I need to submit it. I don't know anybody on the inside. I'm literally trying to break down this brick wall. I don't know where it is, right? I don't know why I have this wall. It's just, okay, this wall might be in my head, right? Maybe there's an opportunity waiting for you, just don't realize it. And this part of the process is helping me grow. Because when you go through this whole process on submitting resumes, kind of like what Rob was just talking about, maybe it's something that you're learning to actually help teach other people.
Yeah.
could be peers, could be HR, could be the folks on the inside, could be recruiters, right? And when you start thinking about like that, what do you think that does for us as individuals, Rob? What do you think when we start changing and thinking about how we're looking at the whole submittal process as a learning experience?
I wanted to respond to a comment that you just made, and I wanted to have some witty, quote.
Go for it.
Pain is weakness leaving the body, something like that. But generally speaking, so face the hard stuff, right? Face that challenge and create what you intend to submit, or a pool, like a CV, of all of the experience from which you intend to submit. And just remember that there are two paths here. Think of it this way, right? There's the machine readable, the AI, and the processing aspect of what you submit and how it gets into the employer's record.
Black and white.
And there's the human interfacing aspect of, I have a piece of paper, 2, 3. I've always heard 1-pager, 2-pager, but it could be as many as you feel will be adequate, and put that in front of a human who's now going to sit down and talk with you about that. So those are the submission paths, and those are the processing steps, if you will, and how you're going to get to those interviews. So I think that'll be key and most important.
No, that's great, because as we go through this, we have a lot of stressors already. We can talk about stressors in the role. We can talk about stressors at home. We can talk about stress of finding a job. That's a job by itself, right? Especially if you're unemployed, et cetera. You're getting stressed from several different angles. Okay. And you should have a pity party. If you need to have a pity party, please have a pity party. Get out of your system, make it happen. If your pity party goes more than 3 days, I'll say it's time to stop having a pity party. I'm just going to call it out. I'll say that's a coach, right? It's time for you to say, okay, it's time to move on. We'll figure it out. Yes, I get it. Things haven't changed, but it's not going to get any better if you continue having the pity party. I'm a coach, right? I'm a high performance coach. So my purpose is to help push you, not push you out the door, but help push you forward, right? Yeah. And when you think about that, it's like, okay, it's done. Great. Didn't do me any good. I might add a couple days, or maybe you decide, okay, I have one buddy, he took 2 weeks off because he realized he was getting too stressed by it. Okay, take 2 weeks off. If you can afford to do it, make it happen. It's the best time at all to take a break off. But it's being able to say, how am I submitting it? What's next? What formats do I need to pay attention to? What do I not need to pay attention to, right? Who do I need to listen to? Who do I not need to listen to? Where can I find my community? These are questions that come to mind when you're going through these outside of the whole ATS process, right? And you need to find that group and network. And maybe it's right here on the ITAM Kitchen. Maybe you're part of the co-op piece of that. I'd love to have you as part of the co-op. We have discussions like this all the time, right? And we have pity parties even online. I mean, you'll hear it. But the whole idea is we're listening to different scenarios because we're growing from it.
Yeah.
It's back to the growth. I've just brought it full circle. When we're talking about hero growth, and I know we're here at the top, we're talking about submitting our resume, our ability to make that happen. I can't get this to be. Okay, for some reason it's not working. Okay, submit the resumes, what's getting rejected, what you need to pay attention to, et cetera. Some history, how it all happened, and why we're looking at, and what not to put within the systems. Let's talk about some of the formatting over here. Okay. Some of the operational tips. I think that's supposed to be, okay, for some reason not working. Fine tune the resume, some common mistakes and some of the formatting. Sorry about the small print. I'm going to work on my formatting on this one. But this is about growth when it's all said and done. This is about personal growth. Yes, we're learning about ATS. We're learning about how the machine cycles. We're learning how non-human the machine is, right? But the reality is, how do we adapt to that? How do we work with that? We deal with this all the time in asset management. We do. We deal with data. We deal with people. We deal with the processes. Some of them are unwieldy, right? We deal with governance, how it's put around there. And the technology. We deal with all this already. We just have to get ourselves in a different mindset to say how we can process for a role. So I say that in closing. Here, we're probably a few minutes over. But I say that because this is where you are. You already have the skills to do this. We were able to provide us a few tips and tricks to say what you need to pay attention to. Whether you're doing this or a presentation for an executive, it's very similar. This is a different type of presentation. So with that, with the ITAM Kitchen, I appreciate everyone being here. Rob, I really appreciate this content. This is great. I learned as much as anybody on this. This is great. And we're going to talk about this even more probably in upcoming sessions, because I want to drill into this. Like some of the scenarios I'm talking about, I want to have an open dialogue with other practitioners, say, why is it not working or why it is? So let's come back to that. But thanks, everyone. Rob, any final words on your side?
That's it. We really just wanted to put something together to get it out there in front of all the watchers and listeners. Share it with everybody else that you know in the community that's also looking for work and also needs some kind of a boost. And and the last and final thing is, the psychology that I took in college has been really helpful to at least understand what people go through when they have these challenges. Bill touched on that. And you absolutely positively should respect the normal cycles, for instance, whenever an incident happens and is life-changing, so that you're going to perform better. And then that's when I yield to Bill, who's a high-performance coach. So definitely hit him up if you're interested in that kind of stuff. That's it.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up, because the other thing I'll put in mind, because I've heard this from several, well, I can't afford that right now as far as the coaching or anything like that, or paying for the additional consulting or whatever it is, right? Or consultative. I mean, some people need counselors, right? Whatever their jobs. I totally get it, right? It's more important than ever that you get it now. Because it's going to help you further form and grow to be the better person that you are. So thanks for bringing that up, Rob. That was a great point. And don't shortchange yourself. It's like, well, I can't afford it. You can't afford not to. So I'll put that out there on that part. Okay, well, thanks to everybody. We're going to wrap that up for today. We're actually saying with someone on time, but probably a minute over. That'd be me. Thanks for it. I'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to continue on with our journey on that treasure map on the roll and continue that discussion. So see you tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. Thanks all.